And we'll move on to the next panel, but again, everybody can and will jump in. Kenneth Manusama, welcome. We already heard you. You teach constitutional law, American constitutional law at Amsterdam University College. Yep. And Andrew Makkinga, presenter and commentator. Tracy already introduced you to. But for a further deep dive into what drove the American voter during these midterms, we've heard abortion, we've heard democracy, the Republicans tried on inflation, tried on crime. Is there one particular thing that for you stood out as maybe the winning, what was the right button to push?
For the Democrats, you mean, the push? I think it was said before that the Democrats were fortunate that Trump cannot help himself and insert himself into the debate. Biden was right to, and the Democrats were right to run against Trump, the figure of Trump in 2020. I think they were right to run against him in 2022. And that is because of the danger to democracy. I'm sensing a sense of relief yesterday. I'm not so sure whether there is relief. Because, of course, because I'm a lawyer, I look at it structurally and I look at what has been going on for the last couple of years. And all the insecurities that are built into the system are still there.
Like gerrymandering.
Like gerrymandering, like the Electoral College was mentioned, the Electoral Count Act, the certification of the procedure for the certification of the presidential results has not been amended yet. Albertina alluded to it. When we have a gridlocked Congress, that's not going to be solved. The voting rights have not been protected in these last 2 years because Biden couldn't get it done, and in a gridlock Congress, it's not going to get done. So we've talked about gerrymandering, but if you talk about voter suppression, about not being able to hand out water to someone who's standing in line to go vote, or when you talk about closing polling stations because states can basically do whatever they want when it comes to federal elections in their own state because of, and I know Andrew and I talked about it a little bit after dinner, 2013 Shelby County versus Holder Supreme Court decision said basically racism is over, apparently. Supreme Court Justice, the Chief Justice, John Roberts, said in a different case, we should stop racial discrimination by not discriminating on the basis of race. He basically thinks racism is over. So that struggle, and given all the insecurities that are still in the system, makes the system really, really vulnerable still for Trumpism. And just the final point, and maybe we can get it in later, we were also battling an ideology that is not going away because this ideology of America First, Trumpism we call it now, has been around basically since the 1850s. And this is just the third stage or fourth stage in which we see the same struggle. And that struggle is not going away anytime soon.
Amen.
Which brings us to Andrew.
Is an issue that he addressed. Are we ever going to get rid of it? Do you have the answer? Are we ever going to get rid of that aspect of America?
No, not in a long while. Again, it reminds me of this scene from this TV show called The West Wing, where you have the progressive Toby Ziegler, White House Communications Director, going to his president, and the president said in a speech, we have abolished discrimination from our hearts, from our laws. Now we have to abolish it from our hearts. And the progressive Toby Ziegler was going like, "What's that mean?" And I thought, well, he's right, but it's the hard part, abolishing discrimination from your hearts. And just something you said, whether we have not seen racial justice issues in this election, we have. There were numerous dog whistles from the Republican side.
Exactly.
Sure, but the Democrats did not campaign on it as loudly as you may have expected.
Because there was an overarching theme on which you can put racial justice, and that is this democracy threat. Because as soon as minority rights are being taken away, that's a sign that your democracy is under attack. So when they talked about crime, all of a sudden, That's a dog whistle.
That's a dog
It's
whistle.
been, it's law and order from Nixon's time. Everybody is suddenly socialist, communist. That is a huge dog whistle. We've seen that in the 1870s. When after Reconstruction, the black community became more prominent. There were black legislators in the South, and suddenly they were socialists and communists.
And
Martin Luther King was labeled a communist.
Exactly.
So the slur, so to speak, of being a socialist and a communist is actually a dog whistle.
And then let's not forget that Dr. King wrote a brilliant book, which I advise you all. This is not a joke. They're pitting two black people. They're fighting it.
But also Herschel Walker, sometimes seen as a bit of a caricature. But this is I'm going to say something quite blunt, I guess, is that Herschel Walker is the black guy that white people like.
Exactly.
He doesn't come across as too bright. Not that well spoken. So if somebody talks about a black person saying he's very articulate, that's actually quite racist. Because the stereotype, the normal black person for a white person, at least in the United States, is not that articulate and talks about
That's basically how
so
Biden once described Obama during the campaign, right?
Exactly. He's very articulate.
And why did Obama choose Biden? Because Obama knew he wouldn't get through the door if he didn't have somebody like Biden. Future of America.
And it is not a coincidence that as soon as minorities are basically claiming their rights and their position in society, you get a backlash. You get Trump. You get America First. Those two are connected. Again, 1850s, 1870s, 1950s, 1960s, and ever since Obama was elected. This is not a coincidence. Every time you get 2 steps ahead in terms of progressive policies, expanded rights, you see a backlash. And that is the problem, and that is why you cannot say that democracy is not in danger anymore, or that, as Chief Justice Roberts said, there is no racial discrimination anymore. But you see all this backlash. There was a case before the Supreme Court where basically affirmative action is going to be abolished by the Supreme Court because they also think in the Supreme Court that there's no racism anymore, it's not necessary anymore. This is a constant struggle that is going to live far beyond 2024.
Are there questions?